The topic that we have started in our last class was change of state. Today we'll be continuing the same topic and we'll be discussing the other physical processes of change of state. So in order to proceed with today's class, let's begin. Now moving on further, the reversible process for melting is freezing. Freezing is also known as solidification. The entire thing gets reversed in freezing. Why? Because melting is the heat gaining process and freezing is the heat evolving process. In this process, the heat energy is given out and there is the decrease in the internal energy, and therefore there is a decrease in kinetic and then the potential energy. So basically freezing is the reversible process to the melting. So what is freezing? In melting, the solid substance changes into liquid substance at constant temperature. So freezing is the process in which the liquid substance changes into solid, again as it is the process of change of state. So you need to mention at constant temperature compulsorily. The constant temperature at which the liquid substance changes into solid substance is known as freezing point, and it is exactly the same as the melting point. For example, अगर melting 0 degree centigrade पर हो रही है on absorbing the heat energy of ice, तो वाटर की फ्रीजिंग भी 0 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड पर होगी ऑन रिलीजिंग द हीट एनर्जी. द ओनली डिफरेंस बिटवीन टू प्रोसेस इज कि they both are the reversible processes. The rest of the thing remains same. सारी चीजें reverse हो जाएंगी. Okay. Like I have told you that pure substances have sharp melting and a melting point. So pure substances have sharp freezing point as well. अगर substance pure है, for example ice की अगर हम example लें, अगर pure ice है तो it will always freeze at 0 degree centigrade, और अगर impure है तो उसका freezing point जो है वो vary करेगा. The freezing point is always the same as melting point. मैं फिर आपको बता दूं, अगर term freezing है तो you need to write about the process. अगर term freezing point है तो you need to write कि it is that constant temperature at which, and do not use the similar term as being asked in the question, at which the liquid substance changes into solid substance. Okay. Now again, what will happen? कि during freezing the temperature will stay constant. And why the temperature will stay constant? Because now what will happen when the liquid will solidify into solid? So what will happen? कि the liquid particles have more kinetic energy, as they are moving faster than the solid particles, and they are allowed to move about. So when the heat energy is evolved, when the heat energy is taken out from the particle, there is a decrease in the internal energy of the particle, and hence there is a decrease in the kinetic energy of the particle as well. The kinetic energy is the energy due to motion. So if there is a decrease in the kinetic energy, the particles will start slowing down, and as the kinetic energy is also related to the temperature, so when there is a decrease in the kinetic energy, there is a decrease in the temperature as well. Then at a particular temperature, और कौन सा temperature होगा? freezing point पर what will happen? The particles have so less energy that they cannot move further. When they cannot move further, so what will happen? They'll start arranging themselves in a fixed pattern, and when they will not move, there will be no decrease in the kinetic energy. However, there will be a decrease in the potential energy, and when there will be a decrease in the potential energy, the bonds will start being compressed, the bonds will start being formed, and potential energy does not depend upon temperature. So there is no change in temperature during the change of state. So I hope this entire process is clear to you. It is entirely entirely opposite to melting. Melting में क्या हुआ था? Solid particles tightly packed थे. On absorbing the heat energy, the internal energy is converted into kinetic energy. The particles on absorbing the kinetic energy will first start vibrating faster, then at a particular temperature of a melting point, because that is the temperature at which the melting will take place. So at a particular temperature, what happens ke the particles has already absorbed that much kinetic energy that they can the kinetic energy cannot be increased further. So the internal energy will then be converted into potential energy, and when the internal energy will be converted into potential energy, the intermolecular bonds will start be stretching. The intermolecular bonds will start be broken down due to the increase in the potential energy, and as potential energy does not depend upon temperature, so there is no change in temperature during the change of state. इसका बिल्कुल opposite freezing में हुआ है. Freezing में liquid particles turns into the liquid matter turns into solid matter at a constant temperature, that is known as freezing point, which is similar as the melting point. Or if melting is the heat absorbing process में particles जो हैं वो particles की internal energy increase होती है, तो temperature increase होता है और bonds break होते हैं. जबकि heat evolving process में particles की internal energy decrease होती है, because they have started given out heat energy. Particles की heat energy जो है internal energy decrease होती है, kinetic energy decrease होती है, there is a decrease in the temperature, and then at a particular temperature the bonds have started being formed, and when the bonds are formed, the particles regain the original fixed position of the solid, and when there is a change in when the bonds have started being formed, there is a change in the potential energy, and there is no change in temperature, as potential energy does not depend upon temperature. So I hope it's clear what is actually happening in heat absorbing process and what is actually happening in heat evolving process. Now moving to the next a process of change of state, that is boiling, and the reverse of boiling is known as condensation. I have already described the process of heat absorbing as well and heat evolving as well. So I'll not go much in detail about boiling and condensation, as the similar phenomena occurs in boiling and condensation as well. Occurs in melting and freezing. So if there is a term boiling, it means they are asking you about the process. So boiling is the process at which liquid substance changes into gas at constant temperature. Again, the phrase constant temperature must be included in your answer, because during the change of state the temperature stays constant. Okay. Condensation is the reverse of boiling. So if they ask you about condensation, so condensation is the process at which gas substance changes into liquid at constant temperature. Boiling point is the constant temperature. Point generally means a point in physics generally means temperature. So boiling point is the constant temperature at which liquid substance changes into gas. And if they are asking about condensation, condensation point कोई term नहीं है. When gas turns into the constant temperature at which gas turns into liquid is also similar to the boiling point. ठीक है जी. Again, ड्यूरिंग द चेंज ऑफ स्टेट, जब लिक्विड पार्टिकल्स, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर हम दोबारा वाटर की एग्जाम्पल ले लें, तो व्हाट इज द बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ऑफ वाटर? 100 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड. इफ 100 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड इज द बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ऑफ वाटर, तो क्या होगा? लेट्स से इनिशियली द वाटर इज एट 10 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड. इफ द वाटर इज एट 10 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड एंड इफ द हीट एनर्जी इज बीइंग सप्लाइड टू द particles, so the particles will absorb heat energy. there is a change in the internal energy of the particles will increase, because on absorbing the heat energy, the internal energy, that heat energy after being absorbed by the particles will become the inside energy of the particles. So there is an increase in the internal energy, and that internal energy is first converted into the kinetic energy. And on absorbing the kinetic energy, the particles of the water will start moving faster. They are already moving about. On absorbing the kinetic energy, they'll start moving faster. Why they'll start moving faster? Because kinetic energy is related to the kinetic energy is the energy due to motion, and it is related to the temperature. When there is an increase in the kinetic energy, there is the increase in temperature as well. The particles will keep on absorbing the kinetic energy until the boiling point will reach. When the boiling point of water will reach, that is 100 degrees centigrade, the particles of water will no more be able to absorb further kinetic energy, and heat energy is still being supplied. अब वो heat energy, अब kinetic energy में तो change नहीं हो सकती, अब वो heat energy किस में change होगी? Now that heat energy is converted into potential energy, and after absorbing the potential energy, the particles will start stretching their bonds, will start breaking their bonds, and they start move up and they become far apart, and thus the liquid turns into gas at constant temperature, because potential energy does not depend upon temperature. So when there is an increase in the potential energy, there is no change in temperature, because potential energy does not depend upon temperature. इसके reverse में क्या होगा? If the gas is to be turned into liquid, so what will happen? The heat energy will be evolved, will be given out. When the heat energy will be evolved from the gas particles, there is a decrease in the internal energy, and there is a decrease in the kinetic energy of the particles. When there is a decrease in the kinetic energy of the particles will start slowing down, and when the particles will start slowing down, they'll start coming close together. They'll start coming closer together. जब वो slow down हो जाएंगे तो they'll start coming closer together at one particular temperature, that is boiling point, यानी जिस पे कंडेंसेशन हो रहा है उसको हम कंडेंसेशन पॉइंट नहीं बोलते, बॉइलिंग पॉइंट ही बोलते हैं, बिकॉज कंडेंसेशन पॉइंट इज नो टर्म. ठीक है, एट वन पर्टिकुलर टेम्परेचर द पार्टिकल्स ऑफ द गैस हैज सच लेस एनर्जी that their kinetic energy cannot be further decreased. जबकि heat energy अभी भी evolve हो रही है. Then there will be, when the kinetic energy will not be further decreased, then the potential energy will start decreasing, and when the potential energy will start decreasing, the bonds of the gas particle will start be compressing, will start be forming, and then the particles will become closer together and attain the arrangement of the liquid. And when there is a change in the potential energy, there is no change in temperature, as there the potential energy does not depend upon the temperature. So I hope it's clear. जो मेन पॉइंट्स थे आज की क्लास के वो ये कि ऑल दीज चेंज ऑफ स्टेट प्रोसेसेस आर द फिजिकल प्रोसेस, दे डू नॉट इन्वॉल्व एनी केमिकल रिएक्शंस. मेल्टिंग, फ्रीजिंग, बॉइलिंग एंड कंडेंसेशन are the physical processes that involve change of state. Among them, two are heat gaining processes, heat absorbing processes, that are melting and boiling, and two are the heat evolving processes that are freezing and condensation. During the heat gaining process, there is an increase in the internal energy, and there is an increase in temperature until the kinetic energy is increased. And during the change of state, of heat absorbing processes, the bonds are broken, and when the bonds are broken, there is an increase in the potential energy, and when there is an increase in the potential energy, the temperature stays constant because temperature does not depend upon the potential energy. जबकि heat evolving processes में क्या होता है, heat evolving processes में ये होता है कि the heat energy is given out, there is decrease in the internal energy, there is decrease in the kinetic energy, and when there is decrease in the kinetic energy, there is decrease in temperature. Then at one point, at the boiling point, at one constant temperature, the energy of the particles becomes so low, yani at freezing point and at the point where condensation takes place, the energy of the particles becomes so low that there is no decrease in the kinetic energy anymore. फिर kinetic energy further और decrease नहीं होती. जब kinetic energy decrease नहीं होती, then the potential energy has started decreasing, और जब potential energy decrease होती है तो bonds फॉर्म होते हैं, बॉन्ड्स कंप्रेस होते हैं. स्ट्रेचिंग ऑफ बॉन्ड्स मीन्स ब्रेकिंग ऑफ बॉन्ड्स और प्रेसिंग ऑफ बॉन्ड्स मीन फॉर्मिंग ऑफ बॉन्ड्स. जब बॉन्ड्स फॉर्म होते हैं देन गैस पार्टिकल्स अटेन द arrangement of the liquid, or liquid particles attain the arrangement of the solid. ये आपके होते हैं heat evolving processes, and this is how the change of state takes place through these physical processes. I hope the concepts are well clear to you, and I hope it's quite clear what is actually happening during the heat absorbing processes and during the heat evolving processes. And I hope it's also clear that as per marking scheme how to write the definitions. So this is it from today's class. Inshallah we'll proceed with the next topic next week in a new class. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Take a very good care of yourself. Stay safe, stay healthy.